The moment the man slammed his briefcase on the table and cursed under his breath, Maya Daniels knew he didn't belong in Old Town Diner. His suit was too sharp for the cracked vinyl booth, and his cologne too expensive for a place that still used handwritten checks. She was halfway through wiping the counter when his voice, low and tense, cut through the hum of clinking cutlery and the dull beat of Motown playing on the radio. "If you're so damn smart, explain this clause to me." He wasn't yelling, not exactly, but frustration dripped from every syllable. Across from him sat a younger man, clearly nervous, flipping through printed documents. Maya, curious but cautious, moved a step closer under the pretense of refilling a coffee pot. That's when she saw legal documents covered in fine print, highlighted sections, French subtext. "They're trying to slip in an override clause," the younger man muttered, "but I don't think they can enforce it." "You don't think?" the older man hissed. "This is a $400 million deal, Logan. I need certainty." Maya set the pot down. She didn't plan to speak, but her mouth betrayed her. "They can enforce it. If you sign it as is, you're giving them default administrative access post-merger. That clause isn't decorative. It's a loaded trigger." Both men froze. The older one turned. He studied her like she'd spoken an alien tongue. "Excuse me?" Maya flushed. "Sorry, I wasn't eavesdropping. I just used to study this stuff." "This clause," he said, standing up slowly. "You understand it?" She nodded. "If it's from a standard Franco-American partnership template post-2019, then Article 7, subsection C reassigns system-wide data rights unless redlined." "Who are you?" "Maya. Just Maya." "Do you work here?" "Yes, and I used to study law. Pre-law, technically." He looked her up and down. "You're not at university now?" "Dropped out." "Why?" "My mom got sick. I couldn't afford tuition and hospital bills." Silence lingered. Then he gestured at the booth. "Explain it to me again, from the top." She did. In less than a minute, she unpacked the implications, translated every clause, and pointed out two more buried issues the other man hadn't noticed. When she finished, the older man sat back, jaw clenched. "That just saved me weeks of arbitration." "You're welcome," Maya said softly, already reaching for the coffee pot. "What's your name?" he asked again. "Maya Daniels." "I'm Chase Whitmore." The name hit her like a slap. She knew it. Everyone in Atlanta's tech scene did. Chase was CEO of Whitmore Systems, the man behind the smart housing integration and judicial AI mapping. "What are you doing tomorrow?" he asked. "Working a double shift." "Call in. Come to Whitmore Tower. Ask for me." "Why?" "Because you just did what 3 lawyers couldn't. I want to hear more." She hesitated. "I don't have a RSUM." "Then bring your brain. That's what I'm hiring." And the next morning, she stood in front of a glass skyscraper downtown feeling entirely out of place. Inside, security asked her name and checked a list. She was on it. A woman in all white with a silver name badge led her up 31 floors to a conference room overlooking the skyline. Inside, Chase was pacing. "Sit," he said. "What you told me yesterday, it's part of a bigger project. Something called Lawbridge. It's an app to help underserved communities access plain English legal help. But the rollout's messy. Too much jargon. Not enough clarity. We've got coders and attorneys, but no one who's lived in the real world of eviction letters and court notices." Maya frowned. "You're saying your team doesn't speak human?" He smirked. "Basically." And you want me to fix that, if you're willing? No job offer? This is the test. She folded her arms. All right, but if I prove I can do it, I want credit. My name on the project, not buried in a footnote. Chase grinned. Deal. Over the next few days, Maya reviewed everything interface drafts, language logic trees, prototype scripts. The app was smart but sterile. It could pull up statutes but couldn't tell you how it felt to be a single mother staring at an eviction notice written in legalese. So Maya rewrote it all. She reduced reading levels, replaced terms like defendant with you and plaintiff with them. She added voice notes in 4 languages. She designed a panic path, a 3-tap shortcut that led to emergency resources without asking 50 questions first. When she presented it, half the room stared in disbelief. The other half clapped. Chase said nothing for a long moment. Then he smiled. How fast can you do the whole system? Give me access and time. You've got both. But not everyone agreed. By the end of the week, a new name entered her world, Raymond Teller, Whitmore's lead legal counsel. He wasn't impressed. Bringing in an uncredentialed 19-year-old to rewrite legal architecture is reckless, he told Chase. Bringing in someone who knows what it's like to be left out is revolutionary, Chase countered. Raymond didn't argue. He just smiled thinly. That night, Maya sat in her tiny apartment, laptop open, hands trembling. She wasn't just rewriting an app. She was rewriting her life. But she didn't know yet what it would cost. The first time Maya's prototype was tested, the woman using it burst into tears. Not because it failed, but because it finally worked. Her name was Mrs. Hill, 61, recently widowed, facing eviction over an $89 utility discrepancy. She had brought a brown envelope filled with court documents she didn't understand. Maya sat beside her, not across from her, and opened the Lawbridge Beta app. She tapped Eviction Help, read aloud the screen prompts, and within 3 minutes, Mrs. Hill understood her rights, her landlord's illegal notice, and how to request a court-appointed mediator. Why didn't something like this exist before? She whispered. Maya didn't answer. She just handed her a granola bar and said, You deserve to understand the world that governs your life. When the video of that session went viral on social media originally posted by a college intern, it wasn't the interface that got attention. It was the look on Mrs. Hill's face. Relief, dignity, like someone had finally handed her a flashlight in the dark. That video reached over 2 million views in 3 days. Calls came pouring in law schools, nonprofits, city legal aid groups. Some wanted to partner. Others wanted to know why a college dropout was the one leading innovation. Inside Whitmore Tower, things shifted. Chase was flooded with interview requests. Investors leaned in. A congresswoman tweeted, This girl is reimagining justice. But not everyone celebrated. In one late-night executive meeting, Raymond Teller stood in front of the board and said, This is not sustainable. Legal tools need legal oversight. Chase crossed his arms. Maya built something that works. That's more than I can say for your last 3 releases. Raymond's eyes flicked to Maya. You may have helped one person, Miss Daniels, but we're building enterprise infrastructure, not therapy sessions. Maya stood slowly. If your infrastructure can't handle the people it's meant to serve, then it's broken. Not my empathy. The room went quiet. Chase smiled, but Raymond didn't back off. He waited for an opening. and it came sooner than anyone expected. 3 weeks later, as Maya reviewed the newest code pushed by Raymond's team, she noticed something strange. In the tenant protection module, the wording had changed. Instead of automatic emergency rent hold, the new version said discretionary freeze pending landlord consent. Maya's breath caught. That wasn't a clarification, it was a loophole. One that allowed landlords to bypass protection by claiming undefined discretion. She flagged it, loudly, sent a company-wide memo with annotated screenshots, legal impact simulations, and proposed rewrites. She expected discussion. Instead, her internal permissions were revoked within 24 hours. When she tried to access the testing server, an error message popped up. "You do not have clearance." Clarice, the assistant who'd once helped her through security on day one, pulled her aside. "They're locking you out," she whispered. "Why?" "There's a review. Raymond called it an escalation event, said your edits weren't authorized. My edits are the product. I know, but some board members think you're too reactive." Maya stared at her screen. "So the truth is a problem?" Clarice looked away. "Sometimes it's just inconvenient." Maya didn't yell. She didn't plead. Instead, she packed up her things, walked out of the building, and went straight to Old Town Library. In the dusty, outdated public computers section, she logged in and rebuilt the prototype from memory, minus the corporate constraints. She called it Fire Escape. A stripped-down, open-source version of LawBridge that focused on urgent cases. Wrongful evictions, predatory bail bonds, wage theft. She designed it for people with prepaid phones, spotty Wi-Fi, fourth-grade reading levels. She built it for the people like her mother. And then, quietly, she shared it. Through community networks, through church bulletins, through her brother Marcus, who printed flyers and passed them out on his way to school. The response was immediate. Lives were saved. Families stayed housed. People who never understood court dates suddenly showed up on time with the right papers. Maya didn't profit. She didn't even watermark it. But Raymond noticed. Within 2 weeks, Fire Escape became the target of a cease and desist order from Whitmore Legal. They accused her of IP infringement, claimed she'd stolen internal logic models. When Chase called her, his voice was tired. "They're forcing my hand," he said. "You know this looks bad. Then tell them to fix it instead of silencing me." "I can't." "You can't, or you won't?" There was a pause. Then he whispered, "If I push too hard, I lose funding. And if I lose funding, everything crashes. So the price of progress is my silence?" "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." The call ended. That night, Maya sat alone on the rooftop of her apartment, knees pulled to her chest, staring out over the flickering skyline. She wasn't afraid. She was furious, not just at Raymond, at Chase, at the idea that progress required permission. So she did something radical. She emailed every journalist who had ever asked to interview her. She sent them everything, screenshots, memos, internal edits, the cease and desist. She told the whole story. Within 48 hours, a New York Times headline exploded across the country. College dropout versus legal titans, the girl rewriting justice from a rooftop. Public opinion exploded. Protests formed outside Whitmore Tower. Influencers backed her. One tweet read, "You can't copyright empathy." Chase called her again. "Are you trying to destroy us?" "No," she said. "I'm trying to remind you why we started." "Come back," he said. We'll reinstate you, clean slate, full credit, even a seat on the board. I'll come back, she said, but only if you give me one thing. What? A division. My own. Public rights. Staffed by real people with real scars. He didn't hesitate. Done. And that's how she returned. Not as a guest, not even as a partner, but as a leader. Maya Daniels, aged 20, founder of the Public Rights Division dedicated to making justice not just accessible, but unavoidable. On her first day back, someone slipped a note under her office door. No name, just 5 words handwritten on a torn receipt. You didn't fold. Thank you. The new office they gave her wasn't big, but it had a window. That mattered more to Maya than the title on the door. From there, she could see the street corners she once walked with bus fare and borrowed hope. But now, inside the Public Rights Division, she was no longer begging for inclusion. She was building it. Her first hire wasn't a lawyer. It was Letty Cruz, a former tenant union organizer who had once been arrested for chaining herself to a courthouse door. I don't speak tech, Letty said in the interview. I don't need you to, Maya replied. I need you to speak fear and how we fight it. Within weeks, the team grew. They were all outliers, a paralee who learned law in prison, a single mom who once sued her landlord alone, a librarian who had turned his community center into a legal aid triage. They worked late, argued often, and coded justice into every line. They renamed Fire Escape to Bridge Light and integrated it directly into LawBridge's next national update. The app could now detect biased legal terms and automatically rewrite them in human language. It's like Google Translate for the oppressed, someone joked. Maya didn't laugh. It was more than that. It was armor. But outside the division's walls, trouble brewed. LawBridge had gone federal, which meant more funding, but also more eyes. And some of those eyes belonged to people who didn't believe justice should be free, much less readable. In a private donor meeting Maya wasn't invited to, one investor stood and said, "If poor people start suing back en masse, we'll have chaos." Chase told her later, regret heavy in his voice, "They wanted to scale you down." "I'm not a feature," Maya said. "I'm the firewall. They'll cut the division if you don't play nice. Then let them try." That night, Maya received an anonymous tip. An internal audit had begun targeting her department, citing compliance inconsistencies. She wasn't surprised. They didn't attack fire with fire. They used paper cuts, small, endless, strategic. The next morning, her badge pinged red again. This time at the executive floor. Temporarily restricted, the system said. She smiled. Déjà vu. But she didn't fight it. Not directly. Instead, she called a meeting. Not in a boardroom, but in the street. On a Thursday morning, she gathered every tenant LawBridge had helped. Every student. Every senior citizen who had avoided eviction. They stood in front of Whitmore Tower with hand-painted signs that read, "Understanding the law shouldn't be a luxury." News vans came. Microphones multiplied. A young man from Oakland spoke into the camera. "I'm not here because I'm angry. I'm here because Maya gave me tools, and they wanted to take them back." By noon, the hashtag #LetMayaBuild trended worldwide. That afternoon, in an emergency executive session, Raymond tried once again to bury her. "She's created an unsanctioned cult," he snapped. "This isn't law, it's performance." "Tell that to the people whose home she saved," Chase replied. "This is your fault," Raymond hissed. "You made her untouchable." "No," Chase said. She made herself undeniable. Then something no one expected happened. A law school, Emory University, offered Maya an honorary Juris Doctorate. Not for charity, for merit, for impact, for building a framework more practical than 10 years of theory. When she stepped on stage to receive it, she wore sneakers and a thrifted blazer. Her speech was only 6 words. Justice speaks louder when everyone listens. The applause didn't stop. Neither did the backlash. A week later, Lawbridge's chief investor threatened to pull out unless the Public Rights Division was restructured. Chase brought Maya into the meeting. She sat at the table, stared the man in the eyes, and said, "You built your fortune off algorithmic credit scoring. Tell me, how many poor kids did your model deny housing to without ever hearing their story?" Silence. Then she added, "You can invest in change, or you can inherit the cost of ignoring it." The man left the room, but the check cleared. Maya won. Again. She didn't gloat. She went back to work, rewrote modules for asylum seekers, developed voice-to-law interfaces for the visually impaired. She wasn't saving the world. She was correcting the map, one broken border at a time. And in the quiet moments after the last code was pushed, after the last protest banner was folded, she would sit by the window, legs curled under her, and reread the letters. Dozens of them, from users, from teens, from mothers, from grandfathers, each one handwritten, each one a thank you from someone who had once felt invisible. One night, Marcus walked in with a pizza box and saw her crying. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm just thinking," she said. "About what?" "About how power used to feel like a mountain," she said, "and now it feels like a door." He grinned. "And you've got the key." She smiled, but shook her head. "No, kid, I got a crowbar, and I'm making sure the next girl doesn't have to knock this hard." The conference hall smelled like new carpet and expensive lighting, the kind of sterile opulence meant to impress donors more than inspire action. Maya stood behind the curtain, hands at her sides, as the announcer's voice echoed through the sound system. "Please welcome Maya Daniels, Director of the Public Rights Division and one of Time Magazine's future architects of justice." Applause erupted like a wave. She stepped into the light not because she wanted attention, but because attention had become a tool. The screen behind her showed her face, then faded into images of families, neighborhoods, and courtroom benches where lives had shifted because someone finally understood their rights. She didn't speak right away, just looked at the crowd, looked at the faces waiting to be moved. Then she took a breath. "The first time I saw a legal document, it was taped to our front door," she said. "I was 15. My mom couldn't read it. I tried to. We lost our apartment 10 days later. The room was silent. I used to think power was about knowing things others didn't. Now I know it's about making sure no one is left in the dark." She walked slowly across the stage, her voice steady. Lawbridge was never meant to be software. It was meant to be a flashlight, a map, a hand on your shoulder when the world starts spinning. But systems don't like maps that lead somewhere new. They want us to stay lost. She paused. "That's why we built Fire Escape. That's why we created the Public Rights Division. Because we're not just translating the law, we're reclaiming it." Standing ovation. But she didn't bask in it. She stepped down, thanked the AV tech by name, and left before the champagne could arrive. That night, in her office, she reviewed the latest data. Bridgelight now operated in 42 states, over 900,000 users, 10,000 wrongful eviction cases stopped, 600 minors reunited with guardians after illegal detainments. And still, it wasn't enough. In a memo she drafted alone after midnight, Maya proposed a new expansion, Lawbridge, direct a hotline and chatbot system that would connect rural users with live legal navigators even if they had no smartphone. It would be her most ambitious project yet, and it would require federal approval. When she pitched it to Chase, he blinked. That's big. So is injustice, she replied. Do you know how many elderly people in rural Alabama can't file a complaint because they don't have Wi-Fi? We'd need regional coordinators, translators, congressional allies. Then let's find them. She wasn't asking. She was declaring. The project began with 3 pilot states. It didn't launch smoothly. There were server outages, lobbying pushback, a senator who called her work tech-driven welfare idealism. But Maya didn't flinch. When protesters showed up to one launch event carrying signs that read, "Keep the law in court, not in code," she walked into the crowd and asked them what they feared. She listened. She answered. She explained again and again that what they saw as rebellion was actually restoration. Slowly, things shifted. One evening, an elderly farmer called the hotline to report illegal land seizure. His voice shook. He ended the call by saying, "I didn't think anyone would ever answer." Maya added his quote to the company website right at the top. Not as a testimonial, but as a reminder. Then something none of them predicted happened. Law schools began assigning Bridgelight modules as course material. Professors invited Maya to speak not as an exception, but as curriculum. One day, walking past the Whitmore cafeteria, she overheard 2 interns arguing about a clause in her eviction logic tree. She didn't interrupt. She just smiled. They were speaking her language, the language she'd once had to invent just to be heard. But power is never unchallenged. 6 months into Lawbridge Direct, a major software company filed a lawsuit claiming copyright infringement on accessibility modules. Maya was summoned to federal court. The room was cold, the opposing counsel polished. But Maya, dressed in a simple navy blouse and flats, stood without notes and said, "We didn't copy. We corrected. We didn't steal code. We wrote compassion into it. And if compassion is proprietary, then God help us all." The case was dismissed. The judge cited public interest. The ruling became a landmark. Chase threw a private celebration. Maya didn't attend. Instead, she went to a small community library in North Carolina, where the first Lawbridge Direct terminal had just been installed. She watched an elderly woman press the button, select Housing Help, and speak into the receiver like it was a prayer. Maya didn't say who she was. She just watched. Sometimes witnessing was enough. That night, Marcus called. "You're on the news again." "Good or bad?" "Both," he laughed. "You crashed a billionaire's monopoly and saved a 74-year-old from foreclosure in the same day. Busy Tuesday. You okay?" "Yeah," she said. "Just tired." "Of what?" She stared out the window. "Of being exceptional." There was a pause. "Then let's make you normal. Let's make justice ordinary." She smiled. Maybe that was the real goal, not to be the hero, but to make it so no one needed one. Months passed. Bridgelight reached 2 million users. Lawbridge became an international model, and Maya turned 21, surrounded not by applause, but by her team eating tacos in the office kitchen, laughing, bickering, building, the way she liked it. Later that night, a new email arrived. Subject line, I thought you'd want to see this. It was from Letty. Attached was a scan of a note left at a community center. Crayon handwriting, childish scrawl. It read, "When I grow up, I want to build a bridge like Maya did." She read it twice. Then she turned off her laptop, turned off the lights, and whispered into the silence, "That's enough for tonight." Because justice doesn't sleep, but sometimes its architects must.